I apologize for a bit of a late start. My name is Brian Buchholz. I'm a pre-sales senior solutions architect with Seeburger, and I have a background in PCI compliance and controlled substance ordering systems, and I'm going to be talking with you a bit about data security and how it relates to compliance. I also have here with us John O'Leary. John, would you mind just giving yourself a brief introduction for our attendees?
Sure. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. My name is John O'Leary. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing out here in Silicon Valley with Code Green Networks.
All right, thank you, John. Okay, for those of you who are not already familiar with Seeburger, I did just want to give you just a quick highlight about our company. For those of you who have not heard of us, we're not some fly-by-night company. We have been in business now for more than 25 years. In fact, we were founded in 1986. We were founded as a privately held company, and we are to date still private. So what that means is that we answer to our customers rather than to shareholders. So with that said, we definitely have a focus on product development. Other things that I'd like to point out about our company is that we have offices in 19 different countries. Those are, true brick-and-mortar offices. And our main office is in Bretten, Germany. Our main U.S. office is in Atlanta, Georgia, and we have other offices in the States as well. So the thing that I did want to kind of touch on here, I'm not going to go through all these little bullets here, but the thing that I did want to focus on is that one of the unique things about Seeburger as a vendor is that unlike a lot of other vendors out there, we develop everything in-house. Everything is designed by and organically built by Seeburger. That means that you're not going to have some cobbled together solution that was the result of a bunch of acquisitions. Everything was intentionally designed and architected and built. We have over 8,800 happy and satisfied customers worldwide, and we have customers in more than 50 different countries. Now, the nature of this webinar is data security and how it relates to your business operations and your IT, and more importantly, how to safely access and share that sensitive data with other folks internal to the company and to perhaps outside users. Last year, CompTIA conducted a study that regarded IT security and technology in the workforce. And they found that enterprises, shall I say, 1 in 5 enterprises, sorry, let me restate that. 1 in 3 enterprises experience some form of data loss. An additional 1 in 5 of those organizations experienced a data loss that was considered sensitive in nature. And I know that a lot of our attendees here deal a lot with like healthcare and public sector government, finance. And folks like yourselves have a lot of compliance type issues to contend with. And when you're dealing with sensitive data, it's like it's more than just loss of your business. You could actually be sued or fined potentially. The nature of the slide here kind of makes you think that most data loss occurs or originates from the outside, through perhaps some sort of hacker that's trying to hack in within your 4 walls and steal your data. But the reality is that an equal amount of risk actually originates from the inside your 4 walls. What that means is that sometimes you have users that unintentionally or non-maliciously send sensitive data perhaps to maybe the wrong person in their email list. A lot of times people have names of people cached within their email recipient list, and sometimes you pick the wrong one when you send that email that contains a sensitive file. So along with help protecting you from outside users, Seeburger software also helps, I guess in a way, save users from themselves. This here is kind of like a snapshot of the types of technologies that a lot of enterprises, perhaps like yourselves, are using to construct complex MSP-type processes. And furthermore, these are also a lot of times the same types of technologies that end users will attempt to use for the one-off or the ad hoc unstructured file transfer to recipients. Seeburger realizes that these technologies are never fully going away. We get that. But as much as possible, we would like to try and limit their use within an organization. Not only that, not only make these available within the organization, but make an alternative solution to these technologies something that has the right balance between ease of adoption or ease of use and the necessary security that for that sensitive data. In the past, I was a consultant, and one of the things I found when I would come on site is the fact that a lot of end users would have FTP client or sometimes even FTP server software running locally on their workstation. And not only does that kind of present the problem for, from an IT perspective, lack of, general oversight and governance of that, but what would happen if, Susie that, submits that manual payment process one day from her workstation just, for whatever reason, unexpectedly stops coming to work? Maybe she has some sort of terminal illness, or she has to leave work for some reason. The knowledge of that business process or technology process is potentially lost. Other things that a lot of times enterprises will utilize to help share data amongst its users are network shares. And the problem with network shares is that over time, IT operators, even though they have good intentions, forget to further lock them down. Or other problems with network shares would include the lack of auditability or traceability in terms of who all accessed what file, or who downloaded a particular file from a share. Another very common way folks will attempt to share information or share data or email, or shall I say files, is through the use of email attachments. And unfortunately, email was never designed for the use of safely and securely sending files. And to compound the problem, email also tends to fall short when it comes to handling effectively large files. Another type of technology or tool or device folks will use would be some form of removable storage or an external media device, like a CD or maybe like a USB thumb drive. Not only do you run the risk of that getting lost or damaged, but sometimes that can actually be stolen or accidentally sold on eBay, and along with it, all of that sensitive information that happens to reside on those devices. And finally, a lot of folks will resort to the freely available consumer tools such as like eSendIt and whatnot. And those tools do have their place and purpose, but they're not quite as effective for safely handling those those secure files or sensitive files that businesses consider critical to operations. Unlike the traditional structured B2B, MSP addresses a new type of challenge when it comes to sharing data sensitive in nature, and that's more the data that's considered unstructured, and furthermore tends to lack like a formal process for dissemination. And this here is just kind of a snippet of the types of data or files that secure managed file transfer attempts to address or acknowledge and better transact. These are more business-type documents, perhaps things like business plans or customer lists, or maybe even like personnel information. These are the things that a lot of times are shared within the four walls, and you want to limit and control who all has access to what data. So how do you quantify the potential for a loss of sensitive data? And that is a good question, and that is something sometimes difficult to answer. Symantec last year did it, in the past has attempted to answer this very question, and they have found that the average cost to a medium to large size organization in terms of a loss of sensitive data, maybe some credit card handler or merchant account or whatever that accidentally leaks the list of credit card numbers or something of the sort. Things like that oftentimes average to the amount of $7.2 million in terms of a potential loss for a company. That could be maybe like lost based from a consumer perspective. That could be actual loss of sensitive data to a competitor, or that could even be in the form of a fine or being sued. That taking into account the average number of files that transacted works out to an average of $214 per sensitive record. So as you can see here, it's very easy to see if you look at it from this perspective the value of your sensitive data, and furthermore, the importance of protecting it. Here are some other drivers that business users and IT operators and whatnot will consider or take into account when looking to invest in an MSP solution. And we did talk a bit about the aspect of data security and so on and so forth. And we did touch on a bit about compliance, but I did want to kind of take that step further. Compliance is definitely a big topic nowadays. And it seems as though every industry has, some sort of compliance that they have to follow that was either defined by some sort of general consortium, or in some cases even by a government body. A very hot compliance topic right now is PCI, handling, sensitive payment details, things like credit card numbers and whatnot. Other types of sensitive data that folks are trying to protect would be more under the umbrella of HIPAA and whatnot. The PII, the personally identifiable information, found in patient records. So a lot of times, in order for some folks to do business, they have to be compliant. Another aspect to looking into the investment of an MSP solution is under the concept or paradigm of cost control. And you're asking yourself, Brian, how can investing in an MSP solution, paying out money for a solution, actually help save me money? Well, the answer to that question is under the idea or concept of consolidation. A lot of times, folks like yourselves will use a number of different tools, each with their own licensing and maintenance costs, to string together a complex set of events that handles a MSP workflow type process. And the idea is to help eliminate or consolidate all those different tools that you're trying to use to carry out these complex processes under one product and solution. And the benefit of that is twofold. The most direct and obvious one is that you end up having fewer license costs and maintenance costs. The other side effect to that is that you now require fewer people to manage and administer all that. So it has less overhead to manage and maintain that type of workflow. Seeburger has a very good relationship with the analysts. We view a positive and constructive relationship with the analysts as a very important part of our business. And in particular, we have a very strong relationship with Gartner. And as you folks may already be aware, Gartner has done considerable amounts of research and analyzation about the need for MSP and the requirements for MSP. And this slide here outlines and kind of bullets out here the various aspects Gartner believes should be inclusive to MSP. And just to kind of give you, just a sampling here, one of the big ones, in my opinion, at least from the perspective of a gateway type solution, is like a way of centralized visibility and management. A way to, through one console, track and control all exchanges of data within the organization and outside the organization. With that said, being able to set thresholds and track suspicious behavior. The thing that was already kind of touched on before would be security, ensuring that an adequate level of encryption is being used, or perhaps even more specifically, also limiting who all has access to what data. Other aspects to MSP is the idea of adaptability. And MSP, in my opinion, is a bit of a misnomer. MSP is more than just the intelligent and strategic routing of files. It can also handle data in the form of like a message, like a web service call. That data could also be perhaps in the form of a database record. There really is no limit in terms of how that data came to existence. Our integration suite or tool has the capability of adapting to all different types of interfaces and helping you manage the movement of that data. Other aspects to MSP that we try to address would be more in terms of like the day-to-day maintenance of this. The folks working in customer support. How do you make the process of onboarding a new trading partner easier and less painful? And finally, the big benefit to MSP compared to B2B is the ability to create these complex workflows, in the handling of files. So Seeburger took Gartner's vision of MFT and designed our own solution in-house organically. Our MFT solution was not the result of an acquisition. This is something that we designed and built in-house. Taking that a step further, we actually took our B2B platform, which has been in use for many, many years. It's our flagship product. It's very stable and robust and qualified out there in the market. And we identified the parts that our B2B solution already had that were necessary for MFT. Those would be things like, the secure multi-protocol communications. B2B a lot of times already supports things like AS2 and FTP. That's something that MFT can leverage. Other things that B2B already provides would be things like end-to-end visibility, that centralized visibility portal where you can track end-to-end the movement of a file from one place to another. However, B2B compared to MFT does fall short in some areas, and these were kind of in a way that the deltas between MFT and B2B. And basically, we took these components specific only to MFT and built them into our B2B solution. These would be things like policy management, enforcing a certain type of policy for a particular type of transaction. This would be things like enforcing perhaps maybe things like content filtering. Traditionally in the past, B2B did not really have capabilities like that. It was more assumed that the file that you're transacting was intended to be sent to the recipient. Now when you talk about MFT and now the introduction of unstructured files containing sensitive data, you've got to have more concern about the actual payload of that particular data. So one last takeaway that I want to kind of touch on about this slide here is that Seeburger is in the unique position where we are able to offer a solution for B2B, the structured traditional file flow, alongside with the MFT unstructured complex workflows, all on the same platform. Again, we are able to offer to you both B2B and MFT all within the same unified platform, both aspects having the same UI, the same types of adapters and whatnot that either can access from one another. That introduces a whole new type of consolidation, a consolidation between your traditional B2B and your newer MFT. So again, that could introduce a big cost savings to you. Even though our MFT solution could be considered relatively new in the marketplace, we have already won several awards for our MFT solution from reputable folks. For example, we've already won a Golden Bridge Award, and we've also won some other awards as well here. So it's very much already been well received and recognized by the industry. This slide here I like because it helps kind of provide to you folks a nomenclature of our MFT suite. And we do offer a whole suite of products rather than just one MFT product. And what we've done is we have built a solution for each type of main use case folks are dealing with from an MFT standpoint. A very common use case for MFT would be the idea of the human-to-human or the ad hoc file transfer, the one-off that is initiated by an end user. A lot of times that happens traditionally through email or maybe through some sort of web-based portal. Another type of use case that our MFT suite addresses is the idea of better integrating the data between back-end systems or applications with one another or perhaps to outside users. That's where C-Link comes into play. C-Link is more of our endpoint solution. At the middle here, we have our main MFT product that we refer to as our gateway solution. And this is the aspect of our MFT suite that provides to you all the intelligent routing and governance and control over the movement of files and data within your organization. Just to go a little more in detail and give you folks a better sense for what these products within our MFT suite do and are capable of accomplishing, this here is a more in-depth view as to what our gateway looks like from the end user perspective. It's all very easy to navigate and set up and control. And as you can see here on the left here, with that ease of use also comes a lot of power and capability. Since this MSP solution was based on the same platform for our B2B, we, in a sense, have in a way inherited a lot of the benefits that you get from the traditional B2B, meaning that we got that same AS2 and we got that same secure FTP. We have mechanisms for acknowledging or sending back a functional acknowledgement or a receipt of files. But also we get some newer things where we get some other protocols that tend to be more MSP related and sometimes industry specific. These would be things like, for SwiftNet, File Act, for example, if you're big into payment processing. Other MSP types of protocols that we've now introduced would be things like MLLP, which would be more in the healthcare type sector, dealing with HL7. Other things that, in addition to just the handling of files that we deal with would be, we support messaging-based type buses. We can readily interface with a number of different message buses, including like SOAP, Winslow. We support a number of different flavors of MQ, and we also support JMS. In total, our gateway solution can support more than 60 types of communications protocols. So it's very much an integration system or solution. So we like to say that if you're trying to integrate with something, we probably support that integration out of box. Other things that our MSP solution brings to the table is that Seeburger has developed some adapters that allow our gateway to seamlessly interact and interface with our other MSP products, such as C-Link and CFX. Other things that we kind of borrowed from our B2B suite would be the out-of-box back-end integration with a lot of different ERP and CRM systems. As you folks may already be aware, Seeburger has a very strong and robust relationship with SAP. We have a very, very tight integration with their CRM solution as a result, out of box. So the idea with our solution, as much as possible, we try to help you, the SI, the operator, the IT group, minimize the need to reinvent the wheel. We provide to you a very robust and powerful toolkit that allows you out of box to integrate with a lot of different types of back-end systems and communications methods. And finally, the big thing that our MSP solution in terms of a gateway provides is the concept of governance, that we now care more about who sent that file to what system and what is the actual content of that file, and having rules and policies surrounding all these types of criteria that will help the organization better restrict and control the flow of data. Seeburger, our endpoint client, is a lightweight Java-based service that can run quietly in the background. The nice thing about Seeburger is that because it is Java-based, it'll run on any platform that supports Java. So you can readily run this endpoint solution on Windows, Linux, Unix, even the iSeries, just so long as you have an up-to-date Java virtual machine. Other benefits to our endpoint solution that I believe and Seeburger believes sets us apart from other vendors is the fact Seeburger can do more than just safely and securely move that file from the back-end system or application to the gateway or perhaps to some other endpoint. It has more capability than just simple file movement. Seeburger has other powerful features and functionality, such as the capability of pre- and post-processing, meaning that Seeburger has the power and capability to cleanse those documents before sending them, or perhaps after you receive them before they're consumed by the back-end system, meaning that we can convert from one encoding format to another, which is very handy or useful when you're going from a Unix-based system to a Windows-based system. Other capabilities that Seeburger possesses is it has the built-in native capability of document transformation. C-Link has the same capability as our gateway to transform from one message format to another. And it has the same power of the true any-to-any document transformation capability. We can go from any document format to another. You can even do from one document version to another. Other aspects about C-Link that I believe sets us apart is the fact that out of box we provide interfaces and pre-built configuration that allows for the seamless and easy integration with back-end systems. With that said, our endpoint client is also capable of performing database queries. So you can trigger the file sending process through the presence of a database record, for example. Or you could aggregate data from different sources, perhaps. Maybe one source of data would be from a database, or another source of data would be from a file. You could take that data, aggregate it, process that data, and then send that data in one single file to an endpoint. Again, very powerful. And finally, C-Link can also interface via web service calls. You can send and receive web service calls, to initiate transactions, or to communicate with a back-end system via web service rather than by file or database call. The one last thing that I did want to point out about C-Link that is unique to our endpoint client, and in fact, Seeburger has recently filed a patent for this. And traditionally, endpoint clients, like C-Link, in order for them to send a file in a governed way from one endpoint to another, through some sort of gateway, that file payload itself physically has to pass through from one endpoint to another through the gateway itself. So that the gateway then is, by requirement, has to handle the payload of that file. The downside to that is that it introduces unnecessary load or bandwidth on the gateway itself. And in recognition of that, Seeburger has developed and designed a new way of file movement that we refer to as a P2P type mechanism. And basically that enables our endpoint to send a file directly from one endpoint to another without actually having to pass that payload physically through the gateway. The gateway itself still is able to, through the use of metadata, restrict and control the movement of that file through governance, though. Product that I want to talk more about in detail is our solution that we refer to as CFX. And CFX, in a way, is kind of like two different products in one. And it addresses two very specific types of use cases. The use case here that you see is what we refer to as our Collaboration Portal. And this is a tool that is more geared towards like a business user or like an end user that perhaps is not so technical. And this a lot of times is used in an environment where you have maybe a group or team of people that need to have access to the same grouping of files. And a very specific example of this perhaps would be an engineering team where they all are making changes to or require access to perhaps things like engineering drawings. And then this team, after done, making changes to those engineering drawings, can then, safely and securely through our portal, send those drawings to an outside manufacturer. The benefit to the Collaboration Portal is that all those changes are logged, and through the use of our gateway, you can then also apply, governance and policies as to who all can upload what file and who all can access what file. And that is done in conjunction with a concept called DLP, or data loss prevention. And that is a topic that will be discussed more in full later on during this presentation. Other aspects that CFX brings to the table would be things like we encrypt the file both in motion and at rest. So those are things that help folks become compliant when it comes to sharing sensitive data amongst other team members or to the outside world. Other nice little benefits that you get with CFX is the fact that our solution can integrate with your existing LDAP server. So we will certainly support the concept of single sign-on, so you don't have to separately manage the users of the system. And finally, we have wonderful tracking capabilities with the solution. And You can search based upon event type or based on user. And you can also, if you so choose, forward all the system events within our system to your centralized syslog server. That way then you can use whatever logging analyzer or learning system with that if you so choose. The other aspect of CFX is more the aspect where you have folks trying to share files with one another by email. And this tends to be like a very comfortable or common way for a lot of people to share files. So the goal that Seeburger had for this was to keep the user experience as similar as possible as before. And we have done that by creating a plugin that integrates or interfaces very tightly with your existing email client. At present, we have such a solution for Microsoft Outlook 2007 and 2010, and we have very near on our roadmap support for Lotus Notes. And the idea here is that oftentimes the user will be unaware of the fact that CFX has handled the file attachment for the email. And there are a number of different ways you can configure the use of this plugin. You can have it so that the user can manually choose for the use of CFX to handle the attachment. Or perhaps alternatively and preferred, you can set up certain criteria within the configuration of CFX to automatically handle the attachment and sending of that file if that file meets certain criteria. Those criteria could be things like file size. Maybe things over a certain file size, you'd prefer using CFX for the handling of that attachment. Other aspects of the criteria that you can set would be things like file name or file name extension. And also, you can, through the use of our gateway and DLP integration capability, you can also limit and restrict the sending or receiving of that file based upon its content, perhaps the presence of a credit card number or a social security number. So it's a very powerful tool that was kept to be easy as use as possible. One side benefit to the use of CFX for safely and securely handling those large attachments is that not only does it allow for those files to be sent in an encrypted and safe and secure manner, but also it helps alleviate load from the mail exchanger. A lot of times, the mail exchanger like Exchange will become clogged with all those large files that people are trying to send through email, and people's email quotas start to fill up. All those large files that were traditionally sent through the email system are now being offloaded onto the CFX server. So it helps the email system focus more on what it's designed to do, and that's for sending email. Seeburger recognizes that the way business is done has evolved and changed a bit so that people can conduct business from anywhere, from any device really. And Seeburger has designed and developed a CFX tool that runs on your iPhone, for example, and soon also your Android. And what this allows users to do is it allows them from anywhere, whether they're on the road or in the office or at home, access the files that they have made available up in their CFX environment. This also allows for folks, if they want, to safely and securely send those files either from their phone or from their CFX environment to other users. Another cool thing about this application is that, let's say from your workstation, you send a file using CFX email plugin to a particular end user, and you have not yet heard back from them as to whether or not they've received that file. What you can do is you can then, from your iPhone, after you sent that file from your email, you can, through your phone, check on the status of that file transmission. So it adds not only an element of accessibility and ease of use, but also enhanced visibility. And that leads me to my next topic of conversation here. The benefit of a centralized gateway is that it provides to the IT team a centralized place to view, track, trace, manage any message or file or data movement within the organization and from within the organization to the outside world. So this makes it much easier for the IT operator to keep track of perhaps maybe things that would be deemed suspicious or malicious. It also will allow for the IT operator to manage by exception, meaning that if there's some sort of perhaps communications issue or document translation or transformation type issue. This allows for a single point of reference for the IT team to have access and track and manage all files and data that are exchanged. Seeburger also offers a visibility tool that is also more geared towards the business user. It has, with it, more of a lesser technical type interface to it. It allows them to do more of the standard business type tasks, during the day. This allows business users enhanced visibility to the file movement or data exchange within the infrastructure as well. One last thing that I wanted to kind of talk about before I pass this over to John to talk further about DLP is the fact that enterprise application interfaces is a very strategic priority for Seeburger. We do more than just move those files around. We view ourselves as a solution or tool that aids in integration of all sorts. And we have a very flexible and robust platform where you can literally set up any sort of interface or workflow that you so choose. But more importantly, at least in my opinion, we also provide to the end user a pre-built set of tools and interfaces that folks like yourself can get up and running right away out of box without any major changes to your system or configuration. For example, we already have a very well-defined and robust integration capability for SAP to their ERP system. We also have integration capability out of box with things like Oracle or Bond. Recently, we've developed an integration mechanism for Salesforce CRM. So out of box, you can synchronize and integrate your customer list with your back-end systems. Other things that are on our roadmap that we find exciting is out-of-box PLM integration with things such as PTC Windchill. We definitely see a big capability there with our CFX solution. That basically would allow folks through the use of CFX access to those files generated by your PLM system without having to give them access to your network. Other things on our roadmap that we're excited about is DMS integration, document management system integration. Basically, through the use of our MSP solution, folks from the outside world or even from the inside can, in a safe and secure and structured way, upload and download files from the DMS. All right, well, I would like to pass the audio over to John now to kind of just talk with you a bit about what is DLP and how DLP can benefit the use of MSP.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Again, my name is John O'Leary from Code Green Networks, and Brian, I don't know if you're going to pass the screen to me or not. We'll see. Okay. Brian, I seem to have lost my screen here.
If you like, I can show my screen, and I've given you keyboard and mouse control, so you can, if you want from your side, step to the slide.
Yeah, why don't you do that again? I just lost you just for a second. I don't know what you did, but you.
Okay.
Okay. Once you get it, so okay, I'm there. Okay, great. And I have control. Actually, I don't. Working this.
Yeah,
okay.
you have to have keyboard and mouse control, but I can step through manually if you like.
Yeah, why don't we do that since I don't have control here for some strange reason. Okay,
sure.
Thank you, everybody. We'll just start right here. Hey, Brian, I think did a great job describing the capabilities and benefits of Seeburger's technology, and I just want to highlight one of them, which is really that whole integration capability. In this case, with Code Green Networks. And because of the strong capabilities of Seeburger and the integration capability that it provides, additional technology that can complement the requirements and provide additional solutions to customers fits very well and very effectively with Seeburger. In this case, we're talking about DLP, data loss prevention, which is what Code Green is all about. Data loss prevention is a technology that allows companies to really effectively discover, monitor, and control and secure sensitive data, whether you're talking about on the network or as it's used on desktops, laptops, or residing somewhere somewhere out in the infrastructure of the IT world. So that's what Code Green's all about. We're a Silicon Valley startup, several hundred customers, venture funded, and we are 100% focused on providing data loss prevention solutions for our customers. And then we're focused on working with certain partners who we can leverage their capabilities, in this case Seeburger, to provide additional complementary solutions for our clients or for our joint clients. And we're all about, really, it's our tagline, bringing customers the next generation DLP solution. And, you know, DLP really needed to be easier to use, easier to manage, with a lower cost of ownership, and that's what this second generation of DLP is all about. Our technology works in a single appliance, very easy to manage, and very cost effective. You combine it with things like Seeburger technology, it's a pretty effective solution. You can see on the right, we focus on a number of customers. We have about 300 customers now in the healthcare, financial services, government, retail space, just to name a few, global customers. And people buy our stuff because they're interested in protecting and securing information that's inside their organization. And frequently, just like a lot of Seeburger technology, compliance is a driver. Brian, next slide. So what is DLP? Just a real brief definition of DLP. Data loss prevention is the term used to define solutions that address, monitor, and analyze content for sensitive or confidential information flowing in or out, mostly flowing out of an organization, no matter where it happens to be. So we do a couple of things. We prevent intellectual property from leaving with employees, as an example. We can ensure that compliance with industry and government regulations actually is happening, and we can protect against accidental information being lost or exposed inadvertently. And that's the core of what DLP is all about. Next slide. Okay, there's three major components to it. There's the data in motion, watching what's going across the network, whether information is leaving through a variety of protocols, email, FTP, obviously web, and MFT, as we're talking about here today. We can watch all that information as it crosses the network and then act accordingly. And then data at rest, partly because of mergers, partly because information just gets lost, things happen to reside on SharePoints that you forgot was there. Where's my data is a question people are always asking, and if you don't know where it is, you can't protect it. So we have to make sure that we have the discovery capability to help our clients find out where that information is, then take appropriate action. And the third component is data in use. The endpoint, finding out where data is being manipulated on a client. Frequently, people will take information, put it onto a USB, and the next thing you know, proprietary information has left the organization. Very dangerous, out of compliance, a real concern for organizations. Okay, next slide. You know, I use some of the same stats that Brian talked about earlier. You know, from the last one down here, which is over 100 million people have been notified that information through some sort of breach has happened, and my figure was somewhere between 200 and I think Brian said 214, between $200 and $225 per user. You're a moderate-sized company, 5,000 users, that's $1 million impact, to say nothing of the cost on your brand, as well as the ongoing compliance rules that you'll and penalties that you potentially face. So DLP is important. These are just a number of stats. I'm not going to go through them all, but the first one is pretty compelling from IBM as well. Percentage of respondents saying that threats to corporate security are now coming from inside the corporation. It's that crown jewel information, that proprietary information that resides inside a company that you cannot afford to lose, and through a variety of reasons, whether you're talking about in healthcare, financial services, technology, source code, that information leaving an organization, it's your crown jewels, it's your IP. So those are, you can read just some of the stats that we're talking about here, but the message I want to leave you with is if you don't address it, it's expensive, and it's now a real challenge for organizations to make sure that they get their arms around. So together, between what Code Green can offer with its DLP solution, as well as Seeburger, we provide an expanded solution, and that's what the next slide is really all about. Brian? Okay. This is a summary of how we see the Seeburger Code Green partnership. We're all about protecting data loss, vendor information, company information like that, and Seeburger does an awesome job at being able to securely transfer secure data, orders, customer information, so that we can do a number of things. One, we can meet regulatory compliance, okay, which is particularly important in certain industries. HIPAA and High-Tech Act in the healthcare space, Sarbanes-Oxley, Graham's-Leach when it comes to financial services. You really have to make sure that you're complying with these various laws and privacy acts, particularly in those industries. And we can scan very completely, very complex files, all different types of files, to make sure it doesn't matter the type of file, we can spot it. And then we can execute the right types of policy actions to make sure that that information doesn't inadvertently leave. We protect against viruses. So again, as I said in the first slide, you take the technology that Seeburger brings to the table, the security around MFT, combine it with our content inspection capability, you're really providing both greater compliance and minimizing your risk, which is what this whole partnership is all about. So how does it specifically work? Next slide, Brian. This is just a good schematic, straightforward, of how our two technologies complement each other. Let's say, for an example, a user wants to send a large file. They're at their own workstation. They want to send a large file out to whomever, out across the network. And they understand the benefits of Seeburger's MFP technology, so they'll send it utilizing that technology, that solution. And what Seeburger will do, and part of its integration capability, it will take that file, send it over to our appliance, because our appliances can effectively talk to each other, send it over to our appliance, and we will scrutinize the content of that information and then communicate back to Seeburger and say, yes, it's okay to send it out, or no, it's not. So that's basically how it works. Seeburger has the capability to secure, encrypt, do what it needs to do to those files, and it works with us to make sure that the right kind of permissions and policies are in place, so there, as it says there, rules determine who gets the information, who's allowed to get it, and what type of information, and who it's sent to. Okay, and that's what Code Green brings to the table. We can put a series of policies inside our appliance that are specific for the unique requirements of a client, and then Seeburger and Code Green working together ensure that you're compliant, ensure that the right information is protected, and can do it, at a pretty substantial performance as well. So that's the integration and security combination of Seeburger and Code Green working together in a DLP MFT solution. Okay, last slide, I think, just to summarize. Okay, yeah. So I've talked about a number of these points. If you're concerned where your files are and where they're going, and what your employees are doing with those and how you're protecting your important information inside your organization, look to a solution that combines Seeburger and Code Green. Frankly, you should be doing this anyway, particularly for certain focused industries we talked about. It's a comprehensive solution, so you can scan all types of and all different types of content and files, and you have control on exactly who gets what, when they get it, and the type of information they get. And you can track this, get reports around all this. Gives you greater control over what's happening inside your own organization. And it's that integration capability between Seeburger and Code Green that allows you to do that. So we're real excited about this partnership. Seeburger has a great global reputation, a leader in the MFT space, clearly. We're a technology Silicon Valley company, smaller than Seeburger, venture funded, but with really visionary next generation technology. So you combine those, we think it's a pretty effective solution, and we're excited to be working with Seeburger on it. Okay, Brian, back to you.
All right, thank you much, John. That was very good. We appreciate that. All right, so this is how, from an integration standpoint, the Seeburger MSP Gateway would operate with Code Green DLP. And we bring a very tightly integrated solution. And the benefit of this type of integration is that by having both a secure managed file transfer solution working in conjunction with a data loss prevention appliance like Code Green, it brings a solution that's greater than the sum of the parts. And what I mean by that is that you can come up with very intelligent and robust policies and controls over how and when and what a file or any piece of data, for that matter, can be safely and securely sent to the intended recipient. Through the use of DLP, you can actually look inside the file and identify, maybe through perhaps through pattern matching or through correlating with a list of keywords. You can identify data that's considered sensitive in nature. And based on the presence of that data, our gateway can then give the IT operator the control as to whether or not to allow that transaction to occur. Or maybe taking a step further, maybe you allow the transaction to occur, but you enforce a certain level or certain type of encryption. So it's definitely a great way to add overarching control mechanisms around the safe handling of your data. And then just to further emphasize our partnership with Code Green, Code Green has developed for us a Seeburger version of their appliance that comes with already pre-built Seeburger approved DLP policies that our solution can readily leverage out of box. So in terms of a setup and configuration and integration perspective, everything is done for you out of box. So it's very easy to get up and running with Seeburger and Code Green DLP. I realize now that we're running towards the end of our webinar here, and I'll try to wrap up. Just one last takeaway that I wanted to kind of finish up with here, with secure managed file transfer and data loss prevention, is that we are very aware of the importance of compliance to you. And both of our solutions have each identified the various criteria that are relevant to our domains, that are relevant to the different types of compliance that you're dealing with, and whether it's PCI or HIPAA or SOX, for example. And you can kind of see here then on the left, a summarized list of a lot of the requirements that these compliances tend to share. And the types of things that we bring to the table that help you become more compliant, or at least give you a tool set that helps you become more compliant, will be things like, and we give you role-based access control. We have a very powerful and robust user management system. We also have a very broad array of encryption options. Whether it's PKI, PGP, SSL, we support that. We support the encryption or securing the data both in motion and at rest. Now, this is just kind of a sampling of the types of things that we can offer to you that helps you become more compliant. Now, we have run to the end of our presentation, And we do have just a couple minutes left here, and I realize we're kind of running a bit over. If you don't mind, if you have like any questions at all, you're welcome to supply them through our little chat window here through the webinar. Or if you like, if you think of something later on, you're welcome to contact either one of us directly and inquire further about something. So it's up to you. Again, we thank you for your attendance, and we hope that you found this informational to you. Okay, it would seem that we have a shy audience, and it doesn't seem like there's any further questions. Again, if you folks have any other questions, you're welcome to email either one of us. Thank you all for your attendance.